Hi, I'm Stewart Rogers, co-founder of Badass Empire with Victoria Loskatova, and this is another episode of Badass School. Now, today I'm going to be talking about something that might have happened to you recently. Certainly, we've all had something incredibly unexpected happen very recently with the global pandemic, but we're talking about how to deal with surprising or unexpected events or things. These don't have to be as huge as a global pandemic. It could be something as simple as you go get a cup of coffee, you realize you run out of coffee. That for some people is a triggering event because, especially in these times right now where you're only allowed out possibly just to get essentials or to do some exercise, something as simple as the coffee running out could be something that puts you into a spin for the rest of the day. Of course, unexpected and surprising events come in all shapes and sizes. It could be almost anything. So, let's go through some of the ways that you can better deal with these situations. Because the more you're able to deal with things like surprising or unexpected events, more likely it is that you're going to be able to get your work done and focus and enjoy yourself and make sure that you play between your work sessions, as I've said in other episodes of Badass School. First of all, let's get you prepared. And some of this advice will be sorts of things that you can do straight away. Some of this advice is going to take practice. So think about everything that I'm going to put in front of you now and go ahead and try it. Go ahead and practice it. With practice, you will get better and better at these things. For example, first thing is whenever something happens, just recognize it and acknowledge it and understand that life is unexpected. In fact, the only permanent thing in life is change, and things change all the time. So that's your first thing. You have to accept the fact that things are going to change constantly. Things are going to come up constantly. Things are going to change constantly. Once you've understood that and you accept it, and accept the fact that life is not a straight path, it's an incredibly dynamic thing. If you're applying this to your play or your work life or whatever, just know that there's no such thing as starting at point A and going a flat line to point Z. That's impossible. We just take all these twists and turns and loops and everything, and eventually we get to either where we were expecting to, or more likely, we're going to end up somewhere completely different anyway, because life is that unexpected. So accepting and acknowledging the fact that life is full of surprises, full of changes, is your number one thing to do. There is no such thing, for example, as perfection. There's no such thing as perfection. Nothing is ever perfect. It's there's always something that is incorrect or imperfect in every situation. So acknowledge it, accept it, recognize it. Change is a part of life, and that's something that we all have to just acknowledge. Also, we need to talk about attitude. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, it's pointless having a positive attitude all the time. The life's not like that. You have to sink into the darkness every now and then. Well, look, I mean, there's different ways of using positivity. So, positivity in a really healthy way is not all about roses and butterflies and unicorns and rainbows, but using positive language in your day-to-day language, in your day-to-day vocabulary, has a remarkable effect. From a neurological point of view, if you use positive language, positive vocabulary, it will remap the neurons in your brain, and over time, that has an effect on your body language. Your body language will become positive. You'll actually use non-verbal positive communication too. And positive reframing, where you get to think of things in terms of, okay, was this a failure or was this a lesson? Thinking of it as a lesson instead of a failure is a positive reframing. It doesn't absolve you from what happened. It doesn't excuse you from what happened. It allows you to realize that actually there's something for me to learn here. and that's a positive thing. Of course, not all unexpected events are negative. Sometimes there's a positive, switch in your life, um, but try to keep focused on positive reframing. So, for example, let's say that you have a breakup with somebody, or let's say that you get fired from your job or furloughed. Um, you can think of that in terms of all of the negative emotions, negative feelings, or you can say, okay, it hasn't worked out, but maybe that's because there's something better next, or maybe this is just creating the space for me to do other things. So when you think in those sorts of terms, you'll take a bad situation like maybe losing your job, and instead of wallowing in it and wondering what went wrong and why you and all of these negative things, you'll immediately come to, okay, I've got space now to do something better. Let's put all my effort into searching for the role that I really wanted, or setting up that startup, or going into learning again. So always think of things in terms of what is the positive reframing in this situation. How can I make this actually an opportunity for myself? Third thing to do is have a plan and have an alternative plan, because things do change all the time. We're asked in business to do a lot of planning, especially if we're in business and we have, say, investors that have invested in us. They want to know what the forward plan is. It's a sensible thing to have a forward plan, but it's much more sensible to have a forward plan, an alternative plan, and a fallback plan. So your plan, the one that you're really trying to go for, that's the one where you say, okay, if we do this, 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 and this, then it will get us to this point. Then reality kicks in, and you go, okay, but everything is change. Nothing is permanent. Unexpected things can happen all the time. So let's also have another plan. What if this doesn't work? What if that doesn't work? What do we do next? Have that alternate plan. Your fallback plan is the one where if everything goes wrong, what do you do next? Preparedness will help you. It won't, unfortunately, solve everything, because remember, the world can change in an instant. I mean, just look at the current COVID-19 situation. Nobody could have predicted that. Nobody really understands, beyond some of the world's greatest experts, all of the little dominoes that had to knock over in order for this to happen, and in order for it to spread the way that it has. So even the smallest little thing can cause a worldwide global change. So even if you've got your plan, your alternative plan, and your fallback plan, be aware that none of those might be implemented, and you may have to be fluid and find an alternate route. When something unexpected happens, try to breathe. I know that sounds a bit hippie, but simply put, a lot of people get angry or they panic. People have panic attacks, and they'll, look at what happened through a very angry, negative space. Now, if you look at exactly as what has happened and you really weigh it up, but after taking a nice deep breath, after just letting it settle in, so that you can look at it with fresh eyes and say, okay, what happened? What lessons can I learn from that? Is it actually that major? Is it something that is relatively minor, but I'm making a bigger deal out of it because I'm feeling angry or panicking right now? What is it that you can do to just take a step back, breathe, and look at it with fresh eyes? And, if you're really, really close to something, it is literally like being so close to it that it looks two-dimensional. It's when you take a breath, step back, you can actually look at it from all sides and go, okay, I see what's happened, and actually, it's not that bad, it's not that major. Here's my, fluidity coming into it now. I'm going to decide to do this or that, and make a choice and see where that choice takes you. Now, certain things that happen unexpectedly are completely irreversible. So think about it in terms of this. What good does it do you to be angry, stressed, or panicking about something that's irreversible? it's irreversible. It's happened. It's in the past. You cannot change it. You gain nothing from that. So, and again, this is one that takes practice. It's going to take time and practice for you to use positive vocabulary, use positive reframing. But instead of getting angry, confused, wouldn't it be better to sit back and think constructively about where you go? What's the new situation? How are you going to fix it, improve it? How are you going to learn from it? What lessons are you taking on? How are you going to implement those lessons? How are you going to grow as a human? So those things are really important. And of course, if things are changing all around you, then often you have to change in yourself. And those changes can take all sorts of different forms. So if the unexpected thing has happened, you need to be able to be fluid in your life in order to deal with it. Now, there's some things that you can do to practice in order to get your brain to become more fluid and to be able to change more often. Now, in the first episode of Badass School, I did say that in order to maintain strong mental health, you have to have a routine and a schedule. But also, you need to maintain fluidity. Your schedule might be that, just as with me, wake up, meditate, make my bed, have breakfast, and then have a play session and then a work session. But the way I maintain fluidity is that I'll do different things during each of those pieces of my schedule. I might eat different breakfasts each day. It's such a simple little thing, but eating a different breakfast each day tricks your brain into understanding that you can change, you can be fluid. You don't have to do exactly the same thing every single day. When you go for your bit of exercise or just to get out into nature for a little bit, take a different route each time. Go somewhere different. It helps with just training your brain that even though you have a schedule, you can still be fluid within that schedule. The things that you do, you can do them in different ways, and that helps you to come up with different solutions when something unexpected happens. And meditation is incredibly important. I know I say it pretty much every episode, but it does put you in that place where you're living in the present. And one of the best pieces of advice from experts when it comes to unexpected things happening in your world is to take life at 5-minute chunks at a time. I believe if you meditate the right way for long enough, actually you can take life in 6 or 7 second chunks at a time. But that helps you to avoid wasting brain power and energy on things that have happened because you can't change them. And you can't control what's going to happen in the future either, so we don't worry about that. It means that we can focus our energies on now and being present. Focusing on now, being present, and being able to make choices quickly, and then make another choice if something doesn't go the way you wanted it to, or if you end up somewhere elsewhere from where you expected, is what dealing with unexpected situations is all about. Now, when it comes to the sort of final tip on this, it comes to the point of attachment and detachment. Attachment basically is where you're attaching yourself to things, people, emotions, situations. If you have strong attachment to things, you are then afraid of letting them go. And being afraid to let things go is going to make things more difficult for you when you have something unexpected happen in your world. So you need to try and focus on detachment. Having a sort of attitude of non-attachment to things, non-attachment to situations, to people, to everything that you find familiar, is going to help you be much more fluid and be able to deal with unexpected things in a lot more easier way. It's not easy because, of course, attachment is a very human thing. But start with simple exercises. For example, Marie Kondo, of course, quite famous for her ideas of cleanliness and organization. And what she says when you're, say, looking through your clothes, you're deciding how to remove what is not necessary for you so that you can reduce the amount of things that you own. She famously, of course, says, ask yourself, does it spark joy? And then if it doesn't spark joy, you need to give it to charity or recycle it, so that you can reduce the amount of things you own. And there's a certain level of clarity that comes with that kind of minimalism. Apply that sort of idea to all the things around you, unless there's a really good reason for you to have that in your world and be attached to it. Try to remove things and don't have an emotional bond with them. The more you bring the clutter down, the more you organize yourself, the more you only keep hold of things that really do spark joy in your life or are really essential and useful, you'll become less attached to these things. And then when something unexpected happens, it's not going to be such a big emotional deal for you. So those are my tips. Hopefully, you can put those in practice. Be aware that a lot of these, especially the ones where you're practicing non-attachment, where you're getting into a space where you're just thinking about the present and being completely present and focused, not worrying about the past and future, will take a lot of practice and daily practice. So don't expect instant results with those. But I hope these are really, really useful to you and will help you to deal with all the things that are going on right now and anything else that's going to come in your future. So, of course, you know that you can extend all of your knowledge and education that we're giving you through Badass Empire by going to Badass Summit. Badass Summit is our free to attend conference, 28 of the world's best speakers teaching you real stuff about marketing, business and lifestyle. Go to badasssummit.com and sign up there. And as ever, thank you for being our patron. We hope you're really enjoying these videos, the other video content we're putting up, the articles we're putting up, and hopefully you're enjoying that. Please let us know in the comments what you're getting out of this. We love to hear from you, and what topics you'd like us to cover in the future. We're more than happy to just cover anything that you put in that we think we have a voice about or that we have an expertise in. We'd love to make sure that you're getting exactly what you want. Thanks so much, and see you next episode.